Are you ready for some really uncomfortable information? Things you don't want to hear about? Well, I'm going to tell you what's going on in the housing market right now and how some people are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you don't want to be one of these people and you want to maximize your return, you better watch this video today. My name is Hudson. I'm a real estate agent here in the Las Vegas area. And sometimes people say, hey, can I reach out to you? Yeah, my information's down below and in the info tab. Call, text, or email. Most importantly, I have a calendar link down below. Just go ahead and click on that. You can reserve some of my time. That way, you'll know that you'll be able to block out time so you can get all of your questions answered. So today, I'm going to make you really uncomfortable. Sometimes being in a state of being uncomfortable can be a good thing. Right now, it doesn't feel good for a lot of people. And the reason I made this video is because I've started to notice a trend of people wanting to stick to their guns. And I just got off the phone. I had a conversation with an agent, and the individual was trying to figure out how to approach their seller because they're refusing to lower their price. They just got a good offer and they refuse to take it. So I decided, after looking a little bit more and a little bit deeper, and also some more conversations I've had over the past couple of weeks, to talk to you guys about what's really going on in this market. So first of all, how do we get here? Well, we got here when interest rates went through the roof. We all know prices went nuts. People were offering 50,000 over. That's just in this market. In some markets I know, people were offering 150, 200,000 over. I remember talking to an agent one time, and I was talking about how things were getting so crazy here in Las Vegas that people were offering 30, 50,000 over. The agent looks at me and goes, why so low? I'm like, what? Why so low? He goes, in my market, it's common to have overages of $150,000 and $200,000. What? So you have to think how relative this stuff is. I know an agent in Canada where before we had the inflection point, every house was sold for 100,000 over list. Now every offer is 100,000 under list. Right now, if your house is being listed, no one's going to make you a full price offer. As a matter of fact, the house I keep talking about where I tried to do everything right on it and get everything fixed, got it priced right, priced below everybody else's house, that was the same model. Well, I got a call today where the person's like, hey, I think I may be able to put an offer in, but we're working with a certain organization. I'm not going to say the organization's name on this one. I'll do a separate video because I'm actually have some minor affiliation with the organization. It's one of those lease to own kind of things, but they only put in offers 3 to 10% below the list price. I'm already below the comps, and they want to put in another offer for 3 to 10% below. It is what it is. There's nothing we can do about that. It's the market we live in right now. I used to have a lot of people contact me about certain programs, especially the legitimate lease-to-own programs. It's like, you know what, it's going to be difficult right now because they're not going to pay over, and every house is selling for 50,000 over, and they have to pay your closing cost. No one's doing that. Well, now it's happening. So these things are very viable, which means I probably need to do an updated video to get some people into homes, because sellers, you need to get moving quick. And here's why I'm saying this. So I look at this transaction here, or at least the history on this one that the person called me about, and it became more and more interesting. So I'm not going to put in the address, talk about any of that. But here's what I want to talk about, where we're at right now. The house is currently listed for, I'm just going to round it up and call it $550,000. Okay. They just got an offer for $525,000. Compared to what I've seen in the day's market, that's pretty good. And it was rejected because the seller wants their price. Here's what's happened since the house has been listed by this agent. They started at $575,000. they've had one, two, three price reductions to bring it down to the 550. Now, what they did is they milked it down, $5,000, $10,000 at a time. Actually, not even 5, 10,000. It's even less than that. The biggest reduction they've had was down to the 550 it is now. But then I started noticing something different. Wait a minute. This house has actually been on the market even longer than that, because the house was actually listed, several months prior. So they started at $620,000.
What?
Then they had 3 price adjustments. And then I just noticed, as I'm sitting here looking at the transaction, it was actually listed another time under a 1-month contract, and they didn't get what they wanted for it that time either. I've said this 1,000 times. It doesn't matter if you're on the buy side or the sell side. The market is the market is the market. When the market was going up and people were offering 50,000 over, sellers rejoiced. Buyers did not. Now it's the exact opposite, and you need to catch where we're at. So if I'm looking based upon when this house was listed, if they had sold that house for maybe 600,000, probably when the agent told them it needed to be 600 or maybe 575, they would have closed. They would have moved on. And most importantly, this house is vacant. No one is living there. So unless they paid cash for this house, it's a hay burner. It's just sitting there like a racehorse that's not racing. It's just costing them money. And they're sticking to their guns. But this is where it gets real interesting. They've owned the house for just 3 years. They owned it for well less than 3 years when the house was listed. They listed the house for almost twice what they paid for it after 3 years. Now, if they were done what they were told to do to begin with, now they were probably told they needed to list it at a lower price. By this time, when they had listed the house, everyone knows prices were going down. But they refused to lower it. And what ended up happening? Now they're down, from 620 to 650. I believe the math in my head says that's $70,000. They could have probably gotten more money for the house. And this is what I'm talking about. Find out what your market is. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not, whether you wanted to walk away with $250,000 and you won't accept $200,000 after the 3 years you lived in a house. You're going to be punished. I remember I've already told this tale before, but I'm going to tell it again in case you haven't heard it. I was talking to an agent a couple of weeks ago, and we had just closed a deal together. And he was like, "Oh man, thank goodness you bought that house for me, because if I had to try to sell it now, I'd have to sell it for $40,000 less, which means my buyers could have waited a couple of months and saved $40,000 or something." But that's what the market is. And he tells me the tale of another house that he has under contract. He met with the sellers right at the beginning of the current crisis, and he said the house was worth between $625 and $650. They wanted $675, so they couldn't meet at the mines. Then they call him back up. Well, now the market's changed even more, so they have to list the house at $500,000. So Mickey's big hand, little hand tells me that's a lot less than $625 to $650. They get an offer for $450. Guess what? They took it. Then they paid all of the buyer's closing cost. And then to top it off, they fixed every last thing that the buyer wanted fixed from the inspection. If they had listed at $625 to begin with, they probably would have gotten $625. There's this old saying, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. We are going into an era when everyone who is trying to act like a hog is going to get slaughtered. You need to be ahead of the curve if you are a seller. If you're a buyer, you need to take advantage of those who refuse. They're now on the third agent, which means at this point, they're probably getting desperate. I've heard it before. You agents don't know what you're doing. You're conspiring against me. Yes, everyone's conspiring against you. No one's conspiring against you. The market has changed. Interest rates have gone through the roof, although they're not really through the roof, but it feels like that. Somebody who has to buy your house has to pay over $1,000 more per month for it. That's at the current rate. If you'd sold it at, the 620, it probably would have been about $1,200-1,300 a month. Not everybody has that money. You have to come to realism. Those people who haven't come to realism, now they just rejected an offer for only $25,000 less than they have it listed for. Now, here's the real secret. I don't want to say how much they paid, but they still would walk away after 3 years after they paid all of their closing costs, possibly, since about 80% of sellers would have been paying somebody's closing cost. So their closing costs, the buyer's closing cost, their realtor fees, they still would have walked away with that 525 with over 150,000 in their pockets. You see, that's a hog getting greedy. That's 50,000 a year in growth from their house net after they didn't listen to people. Here's your bit of advice for the buyers. When you see that, take advantage of it. They're probably going to kick themselves 2 weeks from now, because the people who offer that 525, there's too many houses out there right now. They just went and offered that to somebody else and they accepted it. A week from now, this individual is going to go, can we get that 525 offer back? The agent's going to contact the other agent. They're going to go like, oh no, we're already under contract. And then they're going to lower their price to 525. Trust me, I know. I see it every single day. Unless it's a super low ball offer, you need to really consider it. If you're out there and you're looking for a house, I hate to say this, as a buyer, take advantage of it. Go ahead and put in not a super low ball offer, maybe a low ball offer. AK somebody who had a house that was worth $625 to $650 a few months ago, now has it listed for $500. You offer $450 and they take it. And then they pay your closing cost, and then they fix it up for you. That's called a win. Sellers, don't make these mistakes. And if you don't want to make any other mistakes, I got a whole bunch of videos for you guys to watch. If you need to get a hold of me, call, text, email. Information is below in the info tab. Get on my calendar. And if I provided the smallest amount of value to you today and you have not subscribed, I really would appreciate that subscription today, along with a thumbs up and a quick comment. No matter what, I'm trying to respond to each one of them now.